Big one in the Big Ten on Saturday night as number 23 USC hits the road to take on Nebraska. The Trojans looking to bounce back from that loss to Notre Dame 2 weeks ago and hit a speed bump recently after starting 4-0. Lincoln Riley's bunch have lost 2 of their last 3, all of those games against ranked opponents, and now they get a tough Cornhuskers team on the road. So, Beanie, how do you think this team is going to respond off the bye?
You know, I'm looking forward to watching them off this bye week. I think they'll respond in a major way. Obviously, you know, the theme of this weekend is staying alive. Everybody wanting to stay alive in that fight for get an opportunity to get into the dance, that college football playoff. But USC has to do one thing well, and that's stop the run. The 2 games that they lost, one game they gave up 300 yards rushing, the other game over 171 yards rushing. They have to be much more stout in the run game if they're going to have an opportunity to win this game. Nebraska's a tough football team, and they got one of the best running backs in the country, something that USC has to be prepared for.
Yeah, that's something that they have to highlight on the defensive side of the ball. Granted, they went against the best 1-2 punch in the running back room with Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love last week in Notre Dame, but stopping the run has to be the #1 priority. 2 losses on the season versus 2 really good ranked, pretty much conference team. I include Notre Dame as a Big Ten team just historically and regionally, but they got to, the first things first is stopping the run and putting themselves in position and not turning the ball over. 2 uncharacteristic turnovers by Jaden Mayava last week, 2 turnovers in the passing game, and then also still threw for his over 300 yards as usual. But when you're talking about conference play, which this is a big conference game for USC and Nebraska right now, this is elimination for either one of these teams. They drop one more.
Yeah, we can, look at their body of work over the course of the season, and statistically, this is still the #1 offense in terms of production in the Big Ten. That's what we have to remember, okay? Against everyone not named Notre Dame, Jaden Mayava has been 74%. He's been money in the pocket. And even without Wayman Jordan, the running back who had surgery earlier this month, they've still got enough firepower on the ground between, They've still got enough firepower on the ground to make hay against this defense. You're talking about being able to stop the run. I think, this Nebraska, this fake black shirts defense that I'll call them until they earn that top 5 or top 10 nationally ranking like they used to have back in the days. But I'm thinking that USC still has enough firepower because 530 yards average per game, even with the deficit they had last week, is impressive. And I think I like them in this matchup. To me, Nebraska's going to have to do something in terms of, dominating the run game and Dylan Raiola stepping up and doing things that he hasn't done all season.
Yeah, neither team can afford to drop this one. But as for Nebraska, they're looking to end a long skid, having lost 28 straight against ranked teams. That's tied for the 3rd longest active streak in the nation. They haven't beaten a top 25 team, guys, in 9 years. And even further, Matt Rhule has lost 18 straight against ranked teams. That dates back to his time at Baylor. So just how does he turn things around then on Saturday, Kevin?
I think the devil is in the detail. I think defensively they have to come out and have a dominant performance because when you're talking about, we talk about styles make fights, right? And the matchup within the matchup is going to be how much offensive production can Dylan Raiola and this Nebraska offense produce against a high-powered Jaden Mayava and the USC offense on the other side. My observation of Dylan Raiola in the pocket, he needs to be a little bit better. He needs to make better decisions, needs to move around via his protection up front and buy himself time to deliver the ball downfield. I don't question his processing and his ability to find the open receiver and get the ball there, but there are issues with him in the pocket. I think you can make him happy in the pocket, make him have happy feet and get him off of his spot easily. To me, this is going to be the area of concern for Nebraska winning this football game. Dylan Raiola is going to have to be really, really good, moving around in the pocket, buying himself time, stepping up via the protection, and also, like you said, that running back they got in the backfield, they got to make hay on early downs with him early in this game.
Yeah, the frustrating part about this Nebraska team is they historically have started slow through the Matt Rhule era. And you look at last week, found themselves in a dogfight late in the 4th quarter versus Nebraska. Had that same recipe 2 weeks ago versus Minnesota and it didn't pan out their way. The run game have to be Dylan Raioula's best friend. Mm-hmm. At times, I think he plays too much off schedule, looking for the big plays or the highlights versus playing within the system. Mm-hmm. Just from the outside looking in. What will help settle that down is not putting yourself behind the sticks on on early downs, like I said before, historically starting slow in these games. So keeping this offense calm, keeping Raiola calm is going to start with the running game and staying on pace with, positive plays on first and second down.
Emmett Johnson.
That's a guy they're certainly going to have to get the ball to on a consistent basis. But I'm not necessarily worried about the Nebraska offense. We know what they're able to do with Dylan Raiola. We know he's super efficient. They can run the football with the best of them. I'm worried about their defense. When you look at Nebraska's defense, they're one of the worst teams, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country in terms of getting sacks, getting pressure on a quarterback. With J.D. Maiava and the playmakers that he has on the outside edge, you have to make him frustrated. You have to get pressure on him. And then if you're Nebraska defense as well, you have to be better at forcing turnovers. Being a +1 in a turnover margin is something that's going to be critical if you're going to have an opportunity to beat this high-powered #1 offense in terms of yardage USC football team.
Yeah, nonetheless, it should be a fascinating matchup as both teams look to jockey for position in conference standings. The coaches, though, met with the media earlier this week to talk about the game.
I go back to when I first went to the Giants, and Jerry Reese said to me, I always want to come down the stretch of every year with a chance to make it in the college football playoff. But the thing I want our guys to understand is you have to win your way into it. I mean, the whole season's an elimination tournament in college football. So especially in the Big Ten. But there's a bunch of teams right now that are 5-2 and 6-2, and you have to win your way in.
We did handle the bye well, and we got better as a team, and we're able to respond and play well. It's a new challenge, new matchup, all of that. But I think you take some of the things that we did, you take the confidence from it, and we poured a lot into that first bye week, and then that prep week the following week, and the play showed. And so we got to be willing to put it all on the line again. I do think we've improved. I think we learned a lot about ourselves.
Well, USC 5-0-1 all time against Nebraska. That includes an 8-point win last year in their first meeting as Big Ten foes. So the Cornhuskers may be looking for a little revenge, fellas. So you guys gave us the game plan. Now I want to see who executes. So Beanie, start us off. Who do you like in this one?
I like USC in this football game. I think they have too much on the offensive end to where they can score with anybody in the country. Then on the defensive side of the ball, I think they're a little bit better than Nebraska. I think they'll possess the opportunity to get pressure on Nebraska's quarterback. Now, it's going to be tough stopping that run game, but I do believe that they have enough. Lincoln Riley and his team are looking to stay alive in the college football playoff.
This is the frustrating part about this game right here. USC on the paper would be the easy pick here, but Lincoln Riley and his Trojan team has not been a great road team, and Nebraska has been a little bit better than average at home. I can see them slipping up in Nebraska getting this win, but I'm still taking USC in this one because, like you said, Beanie, their defense, Nebraska defense cannot stop anyone, and it's a big problem. You can't get to the quarterback, especially a quarterback like J.D. Maiava.
And piggybacking on what you're saying in terms of their defense being able to stop USC, I look at the numbers, okay? On the run game, they give up more than they're able to produce. And that's maybe not a concern because you figure who they are at home, and they've played some pretty good run teams on their schedule. But when I look at what they're able to do versus the pass, yeah, they're really good against the pass, right? But who have they played? Michigan, Michigan State, and Minnesota. These teams don't pass the ball nearly as prolifically as Jaden Maiava in this USC offense. That's why they're #1 in the Big Ten. So I'm picking USC in this one.
All on one accord. We're all rolling with the Trojans in this one. Nonetheless, should be a really good one Saturday night in Lincoln.